No, I didn't see that. But did you see that girl?
Good luck with that, man.
I don't need luck. All I have to do is mention my Porsche, and she'll fall head over heels. Watch this. Wait. You are with this guy.
Yeah.
He could barely afford to buy that drink he just made you.
You really think I would only be attracted to somebody because of their wealth? You know, who he is as a person, way more valuable than your bank account.
I swear, I've watched this video like 10 times, and even though I know it's coming, I can't help but laugh every single time when the chick says, "You really think I would only be attracted to somebody because of their wealth?" I can't help myself. A woman choosing a bartender who is broke over a rich guy is just so far removed from reality. Look at this guy. He's all broken up over it. Like, wow, I really messed up this time. I need to learn how to respect women more. This may be how women want you to think they are, but it's definitely not how most women act. In reality, that chick would have put on a show for her boyfriend and then immediately gotten the rich guy's number once her boyfriend was out of the room. Women in real life don't say things like what was said in this video. That's like a guy saying, "Do you think that I would be attracted to a woman just because she is hot?" Outrageous. Who is responsible for this fantasy? None other than our famous urban guru, Jay Shetty. For those of you who are out of the loop because you don't use Facebook, Jay Shetty is a famous motivational speaker who has 26 million followers. Certainly, if you are on Facebook, one of the basic chicks on your friends list has probably shared a video from him. I have always been bothered by this guy, but I could never quite put my finger on it until now because he does say a lot of really good stuff like this.
Just as there's junk food, there's junk media. And junk media is as addictive as junk food, but it's not great for us. This is my belief. If you present people healthy food, but in a way that looks and tastes like junk food, they will switch. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Yes, that's exactly what you should be doing when you teach. If you can make the subject entertainment, people will jump to learn what you're talking about. Every teacher should be doing that. So Jay starts off with great stuff like that, but then shoots himself in the foot by saying dumb stuff like this.
There's this incredible study that I love quoting at the moment, when men and women were asked to be alone with their thoughts for 15 minutes, or choose an electric shock. 60% of men chose an electric shock, and 30% of women chose an electric shock. So do you want to be alone with our thoughts for 15 minutes?
So the study he's referencing was done by the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. The article talking about that study says that hundreds of college students were in the study, so we can safely assume that it's under 1,000 people who are participating. Because the number wasn't specified, I'm actually more apt to think it was on the lower end, like 200 to 300 people. Not a very big sample size to be making sweeping generalizations about all people. Second, Jay is trying to make it seem like, wow, I guess people just can't be by themselves. But the study doesn't measure that. It measures if you would rather be shocked or sit alone, to which my question is, how bad was the shock? I bet if you said stay in this room for 15 minutes or we will incapacitate you with this police stun gun, 100% of the participants would have figured out how to be alone for that time period. Now, another conclusion you could come to from this study is that men are less capable of thinking by themselves than women are. 67% of men shock themselves versus 25% of women. Even though you could make that conclusion based on the data, we know that interpretation is incorrect. Almost all the great thinkers are men, and women don't do things like hunting trips or fishing trips where they spend hours saying nothing to their friends like men do. What likely happened in this study is that 200 college students were bribed to go to the study with extra credit, and they just wanted to leave as soon as possible. The men were less afraid of the shock than the women were, so more of them opted to leave the study early. This study has tons of flaws, and there is no critical thinking in Jay's representation of it. He just takes the study at face value because it fits his bias, and the numbers in the study make women look good, which I'm sure impresses his mostly female and beta male audience. That's why I'm bothered by him. If you listen to a good 5 hours of Jay's content like I did, you'll realize that pretty much all he does is quote other famous people. That's not how critical thinking works. Anyone can quote a smart person and seem smart. That's like passing a multiple choice test in high school and then calling yourself a genius. Any idiot can memorize an answer. What really matters is the ability to determine if that answer is correct or not. That's why critical thinking is important. Critical thinking requires that you take an idea and attack it at every single angle to see if you can break it. Ideas that don't stand up to criticism get thrown out in favor of stronger ideas that do. It doesn't seem like Jay is doing that. It looks like he is picking ideas merely based on shock value instead of finding shocking ideas that can hold their own. What that leads to is a bunch of videos that are like, be careful what you say to your mom because you might die in a plane crash tomorrow. Come on, Jay. Plane crashes are a rare occurrence. How does that apply to a general audience outside of a play on female emotions? As Jocko Willink might say, emotional motivation doesn't result in actual long-term discipline. It makes you feel good, but it doesn't lead to work getting done. This is why motivational speeches are a joke. As soon as the speech is over, the motivation goes away. Building good habits is how you actually get work done. You don't get work done by temporarily doping yourself with a charismatic speaker. Alright, sorry about the long-winded introduction on Jay Shetty. I had to do that or else 10,000 people in the comments would attack me and say, "Nuh-uh, you're mischaracterizing him." I'm not. Some of Jay Shetty's stuff is good, but most of it is just fantasy plus charisma. Let's get back to the original video and the main topic by watching Jay's response to the guy in the bar who wants to impress the good woman with his Porsche.
Focus on what you bring to the table, not what your money brings to the table. Not everyone is attracted to just material things. Some people are attracted to potential. They're attracted to personality. They're attracted to passion.
Here is why this is wrong. There is a principle in music that applies everywhere called a hook. A hook in music is when a musician puts a catchy tune into their song so that you listen. One of the most famous musical hooks is this one from Under Pressure. This hook made by Queen and David Bowie was so popular that Vanilla Ice stole it, and his song Ice Ice Baby became the most popular hip-hop song of that time period. Ice, Ice, Baby. Vanilla Ice denied the theft at first, but eventually admitted he stole the material after a lawsuit. That is how powerful a good hook is in music, though. Someone can steal your hook, and they become famous too. If you want to learn more about musical hooks, then Rick Beato has a lot of videos on how artists write them. If you can learn that concept by learning why you like certain songs, then you can replicate that idea elsewhere in your own life. For example, I learned about hooking the audience from music, but hooking is also a very powerful concept in content creation for YouTube. I put multiple hooks into every one of my videos, and there's always one right at the start. The first hook in this video was the girl saying that she isn't attracted to wealth, so she is a good woman because she isn't attracted to things that are superficial. We know that's a straight up lie, so it's interesting to watch. The reason that Jay Shetty's logic is flawed in this case is because hooking is the most apparent requirement for a relationship that everyone is biologically aware of. Just like a good song or a good video, if there is no hook, then there is no good relationship. Men want physical attractiveness, and women want physical attractiveness and wealth. Women in general only date guys who are broke if the guys are really attractive or if she is homely and can't do any better. But even the homely chicks want attractive guys who are rich. If there is no hook, then the relationship will not succeed. I wouldn't marry a girl who I think is ugly, and no girl is jumping to marry a broke guy who is shorter than her.
If you attract someone because of your car, what type of person are you attracting? The more you invest in yourself, the more attractive you are.
The more you invest in yourself, the more attractive you are to a woman? That's because self-investment and delayed gratification are markers of wealth. Women will date someone and even marry a guy who has potential, but if he fails, she will jump ship. Let's do some critical thinking here for a second and take a look at Jay. His wife married him in 2016 before he was rich, but now Jay is a millionaire. In 2018, Facebook jumped to tell everyone that he made $1 million in ad revenue to attract content creators to Facebook video. Would she still be with him if he instead became a loser who sits on the couch all day? No. I also noticed that his wife is fairly attractive. Would he be with her if she was fat? Of course not. And finally, I noticed that Jay is taller than his wife. Convenient. How Jay says superficial hooks aren't important, yet he nails every single one of the superficial hooks in his relationship. Now, this doesn't mean that Jay is 100% wrong here. There actually is something very right about what he's saying, which is that relationships that are not built on good philosophy will eventually become dysfunctional and abusive. However, thanks to feminism and the government, the superficial hooks and the philosophical connection are almost impossible to hit for most people. Women are relentlessly bribed with welfare and family court to be dysfunctional in their relationships. Average men don't have the monetary hook anymore because she can just go on welfare, and if you are rich, then she can get your money with child support and alimony. Outside of superficial hooks, the strong philosophical connection that fosters a healthy relationship on women's side is basically non-existent in most women thanks to feminism. By their actions, most women are admitting that they basically have nothing to offer outside of sex. They can't cook, they can't clean, they nag all the time, and they are verbally abusive and manipulative when they don't get their way. Oftentimes, as soon as you marry them, they cut their hair, get fat, and then blame their children for the 150 pounds of weight they gained. After marriage, they aren't even nice to look at anymore. Which begs the question, what's in it for us? What's in it for the average man? So how about a more realistic response to wealth from a Jay Shetty video? This video is called Rich Ex Teaches Struggling Girl a Lesson. It's about the perfect girlfriend who wakes up early, makes her man breakfast, and pays the bills. She is really put together. Let's watch.
So this month ended up being a little harder than I expected. Could you cover the rent this month? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. It's fine. You've been working really hard to try and finish up. Oh my God, is that Ben? Oh, he looks so good. Oh God, he looks so successful.
Actually, let me call you back 1 second. Hey, would you want to grab dinner tonight? I mean, are you free? I mean, who am I kidding? I'll just text you the address later. 7:30?
Yeah.
Wait, what's this? Our perfect girl Kendra is dissatisfied with her broke boyfriend, so she tries to get back with her ex, who has suddenly become wealthy. What lesson could her ex possibly teach her?
Can I get you started with anything today?
Yeah, we're both gonna have the surf and turf and add a lobster tail to each plate, and also 2 glasses of your best Pinot, and price doesn't matter.
Did you see him order that food for her like she is not important enough to speak for herself? What a jerk. Doesn't he know that all women find it offensive when guys order for them at the restaurant?
So, your job? You seem to really love it.
Yeah, I mean, I make $300K a year, so we really can't get much happier.
Great.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be worry-free. I can do whatever I want.
Here we are. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Whoa. Do you realize what you just did?
That's so sorry. No.
These shoes are worth more than you make in a month. Probably even a year.
I understand, yes.
It's okay. It's not a big deal. It was an accident. It got on my dress too. It's fine.
It's easy for you to say your dress is worthless compared to my shoes, okay?
Wow, did you see what a complete asshole that rich guy was to the waitress? It's like he thinks he can do whatever he wants. His awful personality really taught Kendra everything she needs to know. Now she is a good girlfriend.
So thankful for you.
There, after attempting to trade up to a guy who has more money, she realized the value of what she has at home. All of her sins have been absolved. Really? Jay is just going to gloss over that infidelity? If I were that guy and found out my girlfriend tried to dump me for a richer guy, she would be kicked to the curb instantly. So let's bring some realism into the equation. The only reason that Kendra decided not to drop her boyfriend is because she probably did the math and realized that her rich ex-boyfriend is actually broke. He has a brand new Alfa Romeo car, he frequently goes to a fine dining restaurant and orders the most expensive stuff on the menu, He has shoes that are worth a year's salary of a waitress. What's that, like $20,000 to $30,000 on a pair of shoes? You spent 1/10 of your yearly salary on shoes? There are plenty of high earners out there who are broke, and this guy has no money. That's why she came crawling back to her current boyfriend. Otherwise, this guy's behavior was fine. Women love assholes.
It's not about the things someone can give you. It's about the love that they can give you. It's not about what they have and what they can do. It's about who they are and how they treat you.
I mean, in this hypothetical example, she dated him before. Money doesn't change who you are. It amplifies your character. If you are a good person and become rich, you will still be a good person. If you are an asshole and become rich, you're going to become more of an asshole. He was an asshole when she dated him, and she was fine with it then. The only reason she is not fine with it now is because she did the math. Jay, you know that women do this. You make a video showing that women are hypergamous and will dump a broke guy for a chance at a rich one, but then a year later you make a video saying that women don't date men for their money. Are we living in the real world, or are we living in a fantasy? Things don't change just because you wish them to be different. You have to deal with reality on reality's terms, otherwise you are just giving bad advice with good delivery. That's why you need critical thinking skills. If you don't know how to attack ideas, then you will be easily misled by someone who has good delivery. Speakers can put all kinds of crazy thoughts into your head simply by being charismatic. That's why you need to evaluate the idea for the idea and not for the speaker. Otherwise, anyone will be able to manipulate you. Because the reality is, Jay is ignoring the giant elephant in the room that keeps marriages from being viable: alimony, child support, and loss of parental rights. These are the things that women hold over a man's head to get what they want, and until women no longer can do that, these pseudo-relationships that Jay promotes won't be a reality. Both sides need to have the power to negotiate, or the relationship will become a dictatorship. And with that said, I think that will be enough for this video. So if you liked it, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, comment and share. If you would like to support this channel, then you can do so with PayPal, Patreon, or Subscribestar. All of those links are on my channel page, or they are in the description. Last, if you haven't checked me out on Facebook or Bitchute yet, then you can also find those on my channel page or in the description. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.